Live streaming started, sir.
Thank you, Sheikh. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, a very warm welcome to each one of you. I keep welcoming you every evening. I hope you enjoy my welcoming every evening. It's always a pleasure to host you every evening because you're bringing in some outstanding programs and talks, which I'm quite sure must be inspiring, enlightening. And each one of them, we have been getting some fantastic feedback for the events what you have been doing this month. And by any chance, since we are doing so many, if you have missed our inbox, I want to quickly take a minute to brief you so that some of the people who are just still in the queue to logging in, we have some outstanding panelists who will be talking. This is happening from 9:30 to 1. All the speakers are joining online because they're outstanding speakers, but in Tamil Nadu, how the funding is happening, how to spend, and which area is covered. And he'll also be addressing the thing. And we have got an outstanding panel, including Ranga, who joined us, also one of the panelists. So please do come. And quickly, I'll tell you what's happening in September. We have got too many events in September, but still, I will take a minute or two to tell you. On the 1st of September, we have Mr. Arsh Mariwala, Chairman Marico, is going to be talking to us on Arsh realities, the making of Marico, and who is going to be in conversation again, outstanding panelists, Mr. C.K. Ranganathan, Chairman Managing Director of Kevin Care, Kavita Chitturi is Managing Director of KCP, and Shankar, Founder, CAMS, and Director of Axis Investment Limited. Then on the 2nd, we have again an interesting event, which is a must event, though you must be flooded with so much of news and all the newspapers and televisions discussions. We are bringing some outstanding panel to share Afghanistan under Taliban. What does it mean for India and the world? We got again outstanding panelists. Indrani Bakshi, diplomatic editor of Times of India. She'll be in conversation with Ambadira Sood, Lieutenant General Saeed Hussain, you've seen quite often in the televisions, and Captain Alok Bansal, specialist on Afghanistan. Then on Friday the 3rd, it's a proud moment for us, and MMA annual event. That is the flagship event. MMA is that MMA 65th annual general meeting, and also the award function. Please do come. And this is again, limited numbers are being taken. MMA being a hybrid event. There will be online. Ashpat Singhania, President Ayman, Vice Chairman, Managing Director of JK Papers, will be the chief guest. And also we have Dr. Radhakrishnan, Health Secretary, will be delivering the keynote address. So not to miss this event. And again on the 11th, we have an outstanding event. And the first woman pilot of Air India, she's also Chairman Managing Director of Alliance Air, will be talking to us. The theme is yet to be done. Then we also have a talk on germs of India, germ of India, by Shubha Kumar. Then on the 15th, we have again Matthew Brennan, not to be missed event, is an attention factory. He's going to be talking to all about TikTok and how it's been banned and how 200 million people, what is technology behind that. Now we are going to really make up things. And again, we have a branding and strategy by Bona. Then we have starting and growing business with Rajesh Subramaniam. And we have much more programs. I thought I will now stop with this. Let me now come back to today's event, which are all logged in. And we are indeed delighted to present you today. Again, now, event which everybody, personally, I'm eagerly looking for it because you learn some best practices. Because many a time, even when you transit through Dubai, you always get fascinated. From you go from one terminal to another terminal, or even you stay in Dubai, again you get fascinated. Everything in Dubai, you get fascinated. So to hear from the people who are from Dubai, to share their experience of what do you need to know about doing business in Dubai. And let me have the privilege of welcoming the distinguished panelists for this evening, Mr. Mohammad Athar, Mr. Samir Kanaan, and Mr. Ramkumar, and Mr. L Raman, Managing Director. Now, I will also tell them profile, introduce to them. Before that, let me warmly also welcome all the viewers watching this program live in our webinar, Zoom, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. If you have any question, as usual, the numbers are flashed on your screen. Please send it by WhatsApp, your question, or you can send by email. My team will pick up the questions and respond to them. The speakers are agreed to respond to all your questions. So please do share all your questions, what you have doubt. With relevant to the theme, please ask the questions. We want it to be relevant to the theme, which will be responded to you. Let me have the privilege of introduce the distinguished speakers for this evening. And let me first introduce Mr. Raman. Mr. Raman is a chartered accountant and a caste works accountant from India, over 42 years of experience. And he also has been in Dubai for almost 4 decades and worked in a number of companies. He could be a CFO, HR, multiple activities, and became an entrepreneur in the year 1995, established 2 firms and successfully merged both the firms and became a senior director of the same. And one important thing is Mr. Raman has been a great source of support to MMA, and MMA is associate and partner with him for a number of overseas programs, which we do quite a bit in Dubai, for the benefit of enriching not only the management people in India get enriched. We have also reached out in the foreign countries like Dubai to give our banker with about 18 years of experience. He had held a number of senior positions in investment banking, wealth management, both in HSBC, Standard Chartered, and it's indeed a privilege to have you with us, Mr. Mohammad Athar. Very warm welcome to you once again. Let me have the privilege of introducing our next distinguished speaker for this evening, Mr. Samir Kanaan. Samir Kanaan is he owns a law firm, the longest practicing law firm in the UAE, that has been practicing since the year 1976, and is privileged to witness UAE's legal transformation, business transformation. So he has got a first-hand hand of how the business evolved in Dubai, and he's also specialized in particularly company incorporation, banking, insurance, telecommunication, construction, real estate. That also includes his services, negotiation, drafting agreements, and various legal instruments and legal support to our client. So the panel where we are going to get insight on number of aspects related to the business, including legal aspects. Now, to chair and also to lead the conversation, we have our own Mr. L Ramkumar. We are very closely connected to Ramkumar. Ramkumar has been a past brilliant. We worked closely together for a couple of years in MMA. Still, we are continuing to work together. He's been a great source of support in MMA. And Ramkumar is an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad and 4 decades of experience in diverse industries, bicycle, automobile, engineering. And he was also managing director of Tube Investment of India between 2018 and 2018. And he also had a number of other positions. He is currently chairman of Shanthi Gears Ltd, a listed company, and also past president of MMA, as I mentioned to you. And he has quite a bit of interest, which he is doing now, pursuing, mentoring IIT incubators, member of the Chennai Angels, member of the board of IIM Bodh Gaya, and also is a proud winner of Laila Alumni Award, which is usually given to some outstanding leaders. So we have a very, very distinguished panelists for this evening. And I will now request Mr. Ramkumar to take over, set the context, and take it forward. We're all eagerly looking forward to your thought-provoking events. Over to you, Mr. Ramkumar.
Thank you. Thank you, Vijay. First of all, distinguished speakers, the invitees, members of the managing committee of MMA, past presidents, and all the other invitees online from all over the world. I understand there have been invitations sent to many countries by Raman and Group Captain Vijay Kumar. I thought I'll take the next few minutes to just set the context for today's session. As many of you may know, there's a lot happening between India and UAE. UAE is the 3rd largest trade partner with India. It is next to USA and China. In terms of numbers, we can say it's around $59 billion. UAE is also a major exporter of crude oil to us, and recently, UAE has committed a lot of investment into India in the food sector, which is around $7 billion, and also they're supposed to create something like 200,000 jobs. And UAE is ready to invest in more sectors like logistics, ports, airports, etc. Now, there's also a lot of FDI inflow from UAE in the recent times. Now, going back to what's happening in UAE, especially in Dubai, is that there are a lot of startups started by Indians. 1/3 of all the startups in UAE started by Indians. There are around 3,000 startups which have been started by Indians, and this has been encouraged by the local government. And there has been relaxation in terms of many incentives, the citizenship, etc. The government has announced citizenship to innovators, artists, doctors, and specialists. This is making a lot of people throng towards UAE. I don't know how many of you know that India and GCC, the Gulf Council of countries, were about to sign an FTA, but for some reason that did not happen. But seeing the amount of activity between UAE and India, now both the countries have decided to do a FTA between the two countries themselves. So that is likely to happen sometime. On top of all this, Mr. Kanaan and others will explain to you, there is a great event happening this year. It's called Expo 20, like Tokyo 20 Olympics done in this year, which is going to be done in October in a very grand fashion to attract all the various countries. India is going to participate in a big way. I'm sure the speakers are going to talk about it. So there's a lot happening there. And as the group captain was saying, we thought what better way to capture this than to get people who are actually on the ground and who have the experience in working with all these things. Now, very glad that today we are sharing the stage on this particular event. And the structure of the presentation is going to be taxation and legal, as was explained. He has seen through the entire transformation over the last 4 decades. So he has a thorough knowledge of what is happening, what needs to be done, what's likely to happen. So he is going to talk about the legal and various taxation structures. He will also talk in fair detail about the expo, which is very interesting. I'm sure we have a nice video which you can have a look. Then Mr. Athar is in the banking side. We'll talk about the banking, the support on investment, also about the fintech companies, which is of much interest to a lot of youngsters and startup companies here. After this initial presentation by the three of them, we're going to have small fireside chat kind of a session where I have flagged a few questions which would be of importance to interest to the audience. After that, we'll also take questions from the audience. Audience can post their questions on the respective chat boxes. I hope all of you have a very enriching and an interesting evening. Now I hand over the mic to Raman to take this session forward. Thank you very much.
Good evening, friends. Thank you very much, Group Captain Vijay Kumar, for your kind words and a very nice introduction. Thank you very much, Ramkumar, for setting the context. You've done a portion of my job. I can go straight into the topic. You've given a lot of vital information to begin with. Can I have the slide, please? Let me go into the... Yeah. Can you go to the first slide? Next slide. Yes. I want to give a brief introduction to Dubai. The reason is, if anyone wants to do business in a place like Dubai, the first thing that comes to his mind is, how's the place like? Can I settle down there? Can my family live there? Is my family going to feel safe? What's the quality of living there? And what is the temperature and social and cultural factors and so on? This is a very essential aspect before one decides to do business from Dubai and use it as a gateway to the Middle East and the African markets. Let me take a few minutes to introduce Dubai. Location-wise, it is just in the middle of East and West. It overlooks Gulf of Oman to the east and Arabian Gulf to the north. Friends, we are just in a fantastic location in the sense that, say, Singapore is 4 hours ahead of Dubai, and London is 3 hours behind us. So on the same day, you can do a business transaction between somebody in the east, Far East, and a company in the west. This is a great advantage of doing business from Dubai. You start feeling that all places are very close by, even for traveling. And also, mind you, Dubai is in the middle of Middle East countries and also African countries, and it's a perfect gateway to Middle East and African markets. Friends, the total population of Middle East and Africa put together is something around 1.7 billion, which is far more than India. All these countries use Dubai for a sort of buying location. So this is a great location to be in. And if I go over the history, it was this part of UAE is the commercial capital of UAE. It's the commercial capital of the entire region also. Now, area-wise, Dubai is 3,900 square kilometers, compared with Delhi, 1,484, and Mumbai, 603 square kilometers. But take the population density. It's 860 persons per square kilometer. Just compare it with Delhi, it's 11,320, and Mumbai, 32,303 people per square kilometer. So it's sparsely populated, and social distancing is happening even before COVID, after COVID. And so this is one of the factors which has helped Dubai to contain COVID, because it's, you don't see the density of population as you go around. And as far as total population is concerned, as of 2019, it was 3.3 million people. Demography-wise, 8% of 3.3 people were local UAE nationals. 92% are expatriates. Out of, you can say around 50% of Dubai population is Indians, and balance consists of people from 102 nationalities. There is hardly any air pollution or noise pollution. In terms of safety, Dubai is 7th safest country in the world among 376 cities. In terms of language, English is the main language of Dubai, and it's a typical international city, melting pot of the world. In terms of climatic condition, the annual average temperature is around 24 degrees Celsius. Say for 4 or 5 months during summer, it gets very hot. It can go up to 45 degrees Celsius. Winter is very cool for a typical Chennaiite like me. It's a real winter. It's quite cool. And in terms of currency, the currency used in Dubai is UAE dirhams, that is AED. The interesting part of it is the exchange rate between AED and US dollar has been fixed forever. It is 3.675. It has been working very well for the past 40 years. It's not been challenged at all. This is one of the main factors of long-term stability, economic stability of Dubai, because almost all the transactions, I can say about 70-80% of the international transactions are happening in US dollars. This is a dollar economy. In terms of cultural and social factors, it is culturally diverse and socially very, very tolerant. Enough freedom is given, and there are, it's very, very vibrant. As I said, Dubai doesn't sleep. There are bars and nightclubs open till 3 a.m. Hotels are functioning, and a lot of restaurants are open 24/7. And this is the style of living that Dubai offers and the quality of living. Can I go to the next slide, please? Okay, let's come to the ease of doing business. In terms of ease of doing business, Dubai is ranked 23rd in the world as of 2019. It was 34th position in the previous year, and I'm sure, given the kind of boost the government is giving to make life easy for businessmen, it will surely come within top 10 or even top 5 in the near future. If you look at what sort of business entities you can start, there are 2 major categories. You can start your business either in the main Dubai mainland or in free zones. In Dubai mainland, if you want to start a business, there are 4 possibilities. One is a limited liability company. The good news is till May of this year, if you want to start any business in Dubai mainland, 51% of the share capital has to be given to a UAE national. And there was a landmark amendment to UAE companies law as of 1st of June this year. Dubai has opened up 100% ownership to foreigners in certain, there is a big list of sectors where they opened up 100% ownership for foreigners. So limited liability company, minimum 2 shareholders, maximum 50, and the minimum share capital can be 300,000 AED. My dear friends, one AED is roughly around 20 Indian rupees. And the next form of organization can be branch office of a foreign company. Here, the branch office has to have the name of the foreign company, and it can only do business which is the same as that of foreign company. They can only deal in the goods manufactured by the parent company or dealt with by the parent company. As against this, you can have a representative office, which is a liaison office. Otherwise, a professional can have a sole proprietorship, like a doctor's practice or an audit practice. Let's leave out joint stock companies because it's not very much prevalent here, though there are stock exchanges. And these are the types of licenses which I have covered. And in terms of free zone, friends, there are about 20 free trade zones in Dubai, each specializing in one particular sector, or a cluster of industries. there are, again, in terms of free zone, it is, as the name suggests, it's tax holiday, there is no tax. Even in Dubai, there is no income tax, there is no corporate tax. But in free zone also, there is no tax at all. And free zones, some of the free zones are exempt from certain other levies like VAT. And the good thing is free zones offer one single window clearance for licenses. All you have to do is to give passport copies of the shareholders, a small business plan, and preferred names, and you get the license in a week or two. Maybe 1 or 2 free zones may take 1 more week. In terms of capital, it ranges from 50,000 AED to 1 million AED, depending on which free zone you choose. There are 2 types of entities. One is free zone establishment, where there is single shareholder. Another one is free zone company. Minimum 2 shareholders. Normally it is 5 shareholders. Other than that, you can open a branch office or representative office in any of the free zones. Next slide, please. Can you change the slide? Yeah, this is for you to go through it about UAE economy and reserves, GDP. Friends, GDP per capita is one of the best in the world. And let's go through the sectors which are quite popular and which offer opportunities. As you know, Dubai's oil reserves is not very high. Out of 97.8 billion barrels of oil reserves in UAE, Dubai has got only 4 billion reserves. Therefore, Dubai government has been very particular in expanding the non-oil sectors very rapidly, and they have done so at a very, very fast rate. And this is where the Indian businessmen and Indian entrepreneurs have a huge scope. Let's take construction and infrastructure. Huge infrastructure plan and booming real estate are the key growth drivers for the construction sector. Ramkumar was talking about Expo 2021, and the total investment in real estate and infrastructure because of the Expo was of the order of $6.9 billion US. And besides this, expansion of Jebel Ali Port, Al Maktoum International Airport. There are 2 international airports in Dubai. Al Maktoum International Airport and Jebel Ali Port are on expansion. And these projects will also trigger a number of real estate and residential projects. Construction sector has become one of the most important non-oil sectors of Dubai and UAE economy. There is a huge scope for Indian infrastructure and construction companies in this sector. In real estate, if you take real estate, some of the companies from India have made a big mark here, like Shobha Developers, Shapurji Palanji, and so on. Dubai's real estate has been enjoying unprecedented boom in the past 2 decades. Real estate has been growing at 36% year on year and contributes 7.2% of the GDP. Foreigners account for 30 to 50% of the transactions in Dubai. From 2011 and 2016, it had been growing significantly and increased to 70.6 billion in 2016. And GCC nationals and Indians and Chinese, they actually, use Dubai as their second home. So they are investing quite a bit in the real estate. Now, looking beyond this, Dubai World Central, which includes World Expo 2021 and Al Maktoum International Airport, they are, in the process of developing 10,000, 15,000 residential units, besides numerous hotels and other facilities. Let's go to manufacturing. This is another area which Dubai government is consciously focusing on as a substitute for the oil industry. Following are the major manufacturing subsectors where Indian businessmen can, look to invest: processed food and beverages, plastics and rubbers, electrical machinery, minerals and products, base metals, precious stones and metals, chemicals and products. These are some of the areas of manufacturing where Indians have got a lot of scope to invest. From 13% of the GDP in 2015, it is expected the manufacturing sector is expected to touch 25% in 2025. a phenomenal increase. Next promising sector is tourism and hospitality. Substantial investment has been made by Dubai with a lot of annual events. Number of tourist attractions, I don't have to go through that because all of you must be familiar with so many names: Dubai Parks and Resorts, Dubai Opera House, Mall of the World, Burj Khalifa, and so on. Dubai government companies and other investors have been developing hotel industry at a very fast pace. There were about 544 hotels completed in one decade. And, among the Indian hotels, Taj Group and Oberoi have made a mark here, and they are doing really well in Dubai. Now, in terms of free trade agreement, Ramkumar has already mentioned that, we are, UAE and India are in discussion on the free trade. And now coming to education and healthcare, this is another area which offers considerable scope for investment from India. UAE has been, in terms of higher education, Dubai is the hub of higher education for the entire Middle East and Africa. Even students from India are coming here to study. Among the Indian universities, I can say BITS Pilani and Mahe Manipal are quite very well known. There are a number of, UK universities from US, universities from Canada, Australia. They've set up their campuses here. Healthcare is another priority area in Dubai. All the people necessarily have to have medical insurance, and this has increased the scope of healthcare service. There is a separate healthcare city created by the Dubai government, which focuses on welcoming people from abroad to set up their research or hospitals and other services, allied services. Now, import and export, there are 5 export destinations from UAE, India, Turkey, Southeast, Switzerland, and Oman. 5 import origins: India, USA, China, Germany, and UK. Items of import into India from UAE is petroleum products, crude oil, precious metals, stones, gems, jewelry. In terms of export from India to UAE, food items, textiles, garments, engineering products, precious metals. Now, trade between UAE and India, Ramkumar has already covered that. In terms of flow of bilateral investments, we have seen real estate. Indians rank first in real estate investment in Dubai. 5,246 Indian nationals invested in Dubai real estate sector, valuing AED 10.8 billion in single year 2019, as per Economics Times reports. Some of the Indian companies who made a big mark in Dubai, for example, Voltas MEP, which is a subsidiary of Tata Group, has successfully commissioned its first solar project in Dubai recently. It's a rooftop solar project. Shobha developers have completed numerous projects. They have been operating here from 1976. Recently, one of their projects, Heartland, Dubai Heartland, is a big hit. They've completed 1,100 units in one particular project. And then Voltas, Ashok Leyland, you have L&T, you have Tata Consultancy Service, you have Infosys, and even restaurant chains like Saravana Bhavan, Sangeeta, Chapanbhog, you name it. Indians have already been very, very successful in Dubai. Let's go to the next slide, please. These are few bright spots. If you go down, you can see it boasts of 52,000 millionaires, 2,450 multi-millionaires, and 10 billionaires in Dubai. This is the data of 2019. Friends, I must tell you, COVID has brought in a lot more millionaires and billionaires into Dubai from several countries around the world. They found Dubai to be very safe and secure during 2020, and even now. This number is increasing leaps and bounds every month. Can we go to the next slide, please? Can we have the next slide? free trade zones. As I said, about legal system, okay, free trade zones. As I told you, Dubai has got 20 plus free trade zones here. Establishing business in a free trade zone is very, very simple. You will ask me why should one start business in free trade zone? Sometime later, after my colleagues gave their speeches, I should be having some opportunity to explain how do you choose between free trade zone and mainland. What I want to say is free trade zones, most of the free trade zones are exempt from VAT, they are exempt from import duty. And I've already explained the other aspects of starting business in free trade zones. We'll just go through some of the big free trade zones. The biggest one is Jebel Ali Free Trade Zone. This is one of the biggest in the world and definitely the biggest in the entire region. It houses more than 8,000 companies, mostly in the manufacture, logistics, shipping, and so on. And we will talk more about Jebel Ali Free Trade Zone later. Next comes Dubai International Financial Center. My co-speakers will be able to touch upon Dubai International Financial Center at length sometime later. And then we have free trade zones like Dubai Internet City, Dubai Silicon Voices, Dubai Media City, Dubai Metals and Commodities Center, to name a few. And also we have specialized free zones for higher education. We have two. One is Dubai Knowledge Village, and the other one is Dubai Academic City. What happens in these three zones is government gives huge land at very, very concessional rate for long-term lease. You can take it and build your own structure and do whatever activities you are specializing in. Can we go to the next slide, please? Legal system is something which Mr. Kanaan will explain when he comes to speak to you. Banking, there are about 49 commercial banks in Dubai, out of which 26 are foreign banks, but established in Dubai, having Dubai license. Now it's crowded actually. I would say for a place like Dubai, it's you may think it's overbanked, but that is the way it is. The banks look at companies, they give corporate banking facilities, and it's normal like any other country. But there are certain limitations in that which we will discuss at a later stage. In terms of taxation, Mr. Kanaan will take up certain aspects of taxation, but I just want to tell you there is a VAT and import duty. VAT is 5% across all items, and VAT is levied on any company in Dubai mainland. Major portion of the free zones are exempt from VAT, and as a business you collect the VAT and pay to the government, and you claim the input VAT which you pay to the suppliers. Now, in terms of import duties, it's 5% on the imported goods, but a lot of items are exempted, like most of the food products are exempt from that, and raw materials meant for manufacture, machinery, equipment, spare parts, packaging materials, they're all exempt from import duty. Another interesting part is if you start a manufacturing company in Dubai mainland, if the value addition is more than 40%, whatever you export out of that plant to other GCC countries, it is exempt from import duty in those countries. The GCC have decided otherwise to charge import duty at the same 5% on all the goods imported from outside GCC. But this concession is not available for companies in a free zone. I've discussed about AED-USD PEG. Accounts and audit, Dubai has adopted international financial accounting standards. For audit, there are all the major international audit firms are operating here. Can we go to the next slide, please? this is something which recapitulates most of the things which I have discussed. There is no income tax. There is no company corporate tax. There is no withholding tax. There is only VAT and import duty. And that's also very low compared to most of the countries. We have touched upon infrastructure. And Mr. Kanaan will take a World Expo. Next slide, please. Yeah, we've already seen this. Excellent location connectivity, vibrant social life, English is widely spoken, high quality of living, low transport costs, accepting all religions and culture, perfectly cosmopolitan, 90% are expatriates. Thank you very much. I will hand you over to Mr. Ramkumar. Can you give your...
Thank you, Raman. Now we request Mr. Kanaan to talk about the taxation and legal structure and what's relevant to the people who want to come into Dubai to invest for these matters.
First, it's my great pleasure to participate in this high-value webinar. I think Mr. Raman said it all regarding Dubai and why Dubai and what the advantages of doing business in Dubai in particular and UAE in general. But what I will do now is to concentrate on legal issues that can be of interest of all business people which would like to come to Dubai and enjoy the business activity in Dubai and develop it. One of the main issues that has now erupted or evolved is the Dubai new law or the Dubai new amendment of the company law, which allows for as from 1st of June allows for to have a 100% foreign ownership of any corporate company in Dubai. There is the activities are around 1,000 activity that a foreign investor can participate or can have his own company to deal with these with all types of activities in Dubai, both on the trading and industrial. This is a new development for the last 30 years. No, since 1985, the company law, when it was incorporated, it only allowed for a participation between an expat investor and a local UAE individual to start a business or a company, mainly in company. Of course, there is also the branches where an international company can have in all different fields can have its own presence there, and these branches are all regulated by the company law, which allows for an international company to take Dubai or any other place in the UAE as a branch office for the international companies. And but this was not sufficient. The need was to have 100% foreign participation for all intents and purposes. This is why we believe now that Dubai will have will attract a lot of many investors to join the business life in Dubai. As Raman says, Dubai has its own qualifications. These qualifications are not only in the business as such, but on the lifestyle on the security, on the education level, and the infrastructure in Dubai is one of the best in Dubai. We can safely say that it is maybe better, one of the topmost infrastructures in the world. So all this with the liberal life in Dubai and liberal economy, this is very attractive. And now the Expo 2020 is expected to start as from 1st of October. The Expo 2020 will give a high level of interaction and the high level of business, a new business to come to Dubai. This it will host. It's expected to host around 165 countries from all over the world to have a presence in the Expo. Now, on other issues, well, I'll be answering all the questions regarding this, but now I'm going through the generalities. Also regarding the taxation, I want also to mention here that there is a judicial treaty between India and UAE. This treaty, judicial treaty, actually enforce Indian vis-a-vis
So we lost Mr. Kanaan. There is connectivity is an issue, I think.
Back now.
Mr. Kanaan, you're on mute now. Can you please unmute yourself? Mr. Kanaan, you're on mute. Can we unmute from the admin?
is it okay now?
I got it.
Yeah, you went off
you
the
hear
line
me?
now. Yeah, please. You also come a little closer to the picture. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, please go ahead. Now you're muted again. Can you unmute? Yeah.
Yeah, okay now.
Yeah.
Now you're just gentle touch, it'll unmute, sir.
Mute. Okay, fine.
Yeah, okay,
now
fine.
it's fine. Now it's fine.
Now it's fine. So all
We're
these
talking about the expo.
the treaty actually allows for the enforcement of Indian judgments in UAE. Also, it allows for the UAE judgments to be fully enforced in India. And there is also the extradition treaty between India and UAE. So this judicial treaty also it's essential to know about for the business people, whether Indians or UAE. As Raman said, there is also a high investment level of investments that are coming from UAE to India, and already there. The Indian community in Dubai has its mark, has its presence, and few of the Indian business people had already and recently obtained the UAE nationality. This is a new law that now it's a new regulations that allow for any business person that has a tradition, that has a presence in Dubai for a long time and has expressed his ability to be a genuine business person, are now enjoying the UAE nationality. Sorry. In addition to this, there is the 10 years visa, which is also available for the international business people. So now we have the advantages of being in Dubai, as earlier mentioned by Raman, is plenty. The style, the way of life, now and to enjoy the cultural status, the life, the style of are added zones. The first one that started was the Jabal Ali Free Zone. Jabal Ali Free Zone starting one of the biggest ports in the world. This port then had been developed to be a free zone. So Jabal Ali Free Zone was the first. So all free zones, you can have an offshore company which has its own advantages, but there is recently some restrictions regarding the offshore. You need to know the names of the beneficial owners. You need to know the source of funds, but still the offshore business, it is can be very helpful on the international exchange and international transactions. The other type of is the free zone entity. The free zone entity can either be a one-person shareholder, or it can be more than that. One thing that also I would like to share with you, one of the company law amendment. The company law amendment has now had been 3 years ago developed to provide for the one shareholder LLC. Yani one shareholder can have his 100% company, LLC company in Dubai. So earlier it was two shareholders at least, but in addition, one of them is usually the UAE national. But now it is allowed that a single shareholder or a multiple shareholders, all of them can be multinationals and can be expatriates. Now, regarding the two types of courts in Dubai, or in Dubai in particular, there is the civil courts, which are the courts that had been started under since the 90s, had started to develop under the civil law. While the recent development is the DIFC courts and DIFC arbitration, LCIA, DIFC LCIA arbitration. These courts are a common law courts and not a civil law courts. So here, this would give the opportunity to the international companies to trust the legal system in Dubai, because many of them are under the common law practice, inclusive of India. So if you look at the United States, UK, and India, and other companies have applied the common law. So it is for them a track where they are aware of. It is for them more convenient. Now also there is the arbitration center in Dubai, which is the DIAC arbitration center, which also it's well known. It's now has its track history and it has answered the needs. Now UAE has joined around 7 years ago the New York Convention for the Enforcement of Foreign Judgments. This will allow that any arbitral award which is obtained in a specific jurisdiction to be enforced in UAE. The difference here is that earlier to 2018, the enforcement of an arbitral award would go through a venue which would take around 1 year to complete and get the hour to be enforced. Now, with the recent amendment of the company law, this hour can be enforced directly and within a period of not exceeding 2 months to be enforced in UAE. And under the regulations of the New York Convention, and also under the regulations of the recent arbitration law in Dubai. Also, as Raman said, the question of taxes, it is only limited to the VAT and to the import tax, except for certain activities like tobacco and wine. These are the only two activities that are they are taxed higher than the VAT, which is around 25% tax bracket. So yeah, now I need to answer any of the questions that may be raised after this briefing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kanaan. Now, may I request Mr. Mohammad Athar to talk about banking and the support one can get in Dubai.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, all the members and participants. I'm really honored to be a member of this particular discussion today. I will be covering the topics of banking, DIFC, and fintech opportunities in Dubai. So banking is, as Mr. Raman said, it is having good financial strength as a country in Middle East. So in banking, we have more than 50 banks present, and both local banks and international banks from the likes of Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, UBS, Credit Suisse, Development Bank of Singapore, Bank of Singapore. So all the banks from countries like US, UK, Europe, and Asia, they have a good presence in the country. For the companies to open the account, it's quite easy. So whether the company is offshore, onshore, or if it is a free zone, it is quite easy and flexible to set up their bank accounts with the local banks here. All these banks, they have state-of-the-art technology in terms of online platforms. So with very less human intervention, the transactions are being done. Paperless transactions are being done. So wherever the person is available, wherever he's traveling, he can still go ahead with the banking transactions available on the online platform. So it's quite easy, it's quite flexible, and very advanced in terms of banking facilities in UAE, especially in Dubai. Then comes the DIFC, which is called Dubai International Financial Center. The regulator which regulates all the financial companies here, it is called Dubai Financial Service Authority, which is again a part of Supranational Agency, which is a central bank here. So all the banks are regulated, all the financial companies, regulated, non-regulated, they are controlled, and they are a part of Dubai International Financial Center. Now, DIFC is a part of top 10 financial centers in the world, starting from New York, London, Hong Kong, Singapore, Switzerland. So DIFC Dubai is in the top 10 financial centers of the world. DIFC controls and manages close to $800 billion of assets through various banks and financial companies. There are about 25,000 employees who are working in the financial companies here in DIFC. So it's full-fledged banking, full-fledged private banking, credit, lending, everything is available both in local banks as well as the financial institutions in DIFC also. When it comes to the activities in DIFC, people can set up their single family office if they are shifting and moving from India. So they can move their assets through LRS schemes. You can transfer officially $250,000. Through companies and subsidiary companies, you can transfer more than $1 million here. So that can be done. So all these money can be set up and that can be placed into the banking here. So if there are joint family members between father, son, wife, and daughter, if there are 4 members in the family, you can officially transfer through LRS scheme $250,000 per member, which is $1 million you can transfer every year from yearly closing in India. Apart from setting up single family offices, you can also set up multi-family offices. So as a financial company, if you have the experience in India, you can come to Dubai and you can set up your own financial company here, and you can start advising and arranging for end clients and setting up relationships and accounts for various individuals if you have a client base in India. Simultaneously, you can also set up private funds in DIFC. So you can set up funds in the DIFC jurisdiction. You can take multiple investors into those funds. You can set up a feeder fund. You can set up multiple other subclasses into those funds in DIFC. Through DIFC, you have access to all capital markets from US, Europe, Switzerland, Singapore, Hong Kong, all financial markets you have access. And in these markets, you can access any asset class, starting from fixed income to equity market, commodities, futures and options, derivatives. So all kind of asset classes you can take exposure into all these emerging as well as developed economies. Simultaneously, you can also access real estate in UAE as well as abroad. You can look at taking mortgages. You can do equity release into your properties here in UAE or in UK, big cities of Europe, Switzerland, Singapore, Monaco, Luxembourg. So all these places you can take exposure in terms of equity release on your existing properties, or you can go for your lending in terms of mortgage available with these countries. So that can be accessible through DIFC and UAE. Touching to the subject of fintech, so DIFC especially has a separate cell which is called a fintech hive. So both the government and the DIFC Center, they have been encouraging financial technology companies for the last 3 years actively, and we have seen more than 100 companies around the world registering themselves in DIFC through fintech hive. So whether it is technology disruption in financial sectors, whether it is opting for a different kind of robo advisory, whether artificial intelligence into the financial segment, all these subjects are being taken up, and a lot of R&D is being done by all these financial technology companies. So Dubai as a government, UAE as a government, they are giving golden visa to technology holders, to programmers, and the whole idea is to bring the best of the talent from around the globe in UAE so that we can develop this country and make it more sustainable. In fact, the whole theme of Expo 2020, which is going to start from 1st of October, is on sustainability. Sustainability and technology is the main theme of this entire expo. So all the countries from around the globe, they will be displaying their sustainability and technology going forward. So with this, I come to an end with my set of presentation in terms of covering these modules. I'm okay to answer any questions which you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Athar, for that
Thank you, Mr.
session. Yeah.
Thank you, Athar, for your wonderful brief on the financial sector. Now, let's watch a short video which will show a glimpse of Dubai, or the World Expo in Dubai, and also Indian Pavilion, how it's going to look like.
Dubai, one of the most progressive cities of the world, is going to host Dubai Expo 2020. From the 1st of October 2021 till 31st of March 2022. The main theme for the Expo is connecting minds, creating the future. And it offers the biggest opportunity to showcase India to the world. With 192 participating nations, the Expo is expected to have huge international footfalls. Welcome to the India Pavilion at Expo Ground, Dubai. This is a 4-story building. India Pavilion will show India's cultural diversity, ancient treasures, achievements, and leading opportunities with cutting-edge technologies. The facade is made up of 600 individual blocks. These blocks are capable of kinetic movements, symbolizing the theme, India on the move. During the day, the facade will create different moving patterns. To celebrate 75 years of India's independence, 75 stories have been identified for 26 weeks. Every week, these patterns will take a shape of 3 stories of the 25 sub-themes. In the evening, the facade will turn into a vibrant show with sound, light, and projections. India will come alive in action on this facade. You will also find open theatre, restaurants, and souvenir shops in an open plaza. The India experience inside the pavilion has been designed under 11 themes. As you enter the building, you will be fascinated by the starry space. Now, you will walk through India's journey into space exploration. This fascinating orange globe will tell you the inspiring stories of India's mission Mangalyaan. The giant globe with multiple LEDs inside will take you through the proudest movements of ISRO, India's space organization. These 3 pods in a row are narrators of India's astronomy. Yesterday,
What, Raman, any glitches or?
Mohan is showing that.
Yeah.
No,
Mohan,
the video is over, sir.
Video is over.
Video is over.
Yeah, that's the end.
Yes, Ram.
Okay. Okay. So I think we saw part of that video. It's very interesting. Now let's get on to some things which I wanted to ask you, panelists. So let me start with the most interesting thing which everybody is looking for in Dubai about the free trade zones, right? One is, many people have heard about Jebel Ali free trade zones, and Raman, you mentioned that there are 20 different free trade zones. Can you enlighten the audience about how does one choose to locate the business? Should it be in the mainland or Jebel Ali free trade zone or any one of the other free trade zones? Could you elaborate a little bit on how this is done and what exactly is the benefit for the industries who are going to be located there?
Yes, Ramkumar. Before going into before going into the aspect of how to choose whether a free zone or a mainland, which free zone, let me brief about Jebel Ali free zone. We call it JAFSA. That will give a lot of answers to that question. It is the biggest free zone, as I said, in the region, one of the largest free zones in the world, and it houses 8,000 companies from 140 countries, including about 100 global Fortune 500 firms. Of these, 529 companies are food and beverage production. Mostly industry, trade, and logistics and shipping companies are located there. And it's attracted almost 24% of total FDI into UAE. In 2018, JAFSA generated trade worth $93 billion. It accounted for 33.4% of Dubai's GDP, along with Jebel Ali Port. Examples of companies producing their products in JAFSA: Nestle, Unilever, Mars, PepsiCo, Kraft Foods, Heinz, Al-Khalid Sugars, Gulf Food Industries, and so on. And top traded commodities that go through the JAFSA: oil and gas, metal, steel and construction, chemicals, food and beverages, electronics, electrical, automotive, and so on. JAFSA's trade with India reached over $3.4 billion as per the statistics available in 2017. There are over 800 Indian-owned companies in JAFSA. Transworld Shipping and Logistics Group, Dabur International, Larsen & Toubro, to name a few. There are a lot of facilities there, like dedicated office space, huge warehouses available. Logistics and shipping is one of the main activities of JAFSA. Some of the logistic companies are FedEx, DHL, Hellman World Logistics, and so on. Some other multinational companies which are having regional headquarters in JAFSA, I can name a few: LG Electronics, Mitsubishi Motors, Mercedes, Nissan, Sony, Gulf, and so on. There are banks, construction companies, and audit firms there. Now, from this, you will notice it's not without a reason that all these companies have been are located in Jebel Ali Free Zone. Now, to take up your question, Ramkumar, how do I choose where to locate? Now, it depends on the particular activities of a company. If a company comes to me and asks this question, I'll try and understand what they want to achieve, through their operations here. For example, I'll give you some examples. Suppose a company wants to have a huge logistics center whereby they just want to import goods and then redo the packing and put their own labels and then do the export. Only this is going to be the operation. Then I will say it is, it's convenient to locate, in a free zone than in Dubai mainland. The reason is there is no import duty, no formalities while you import, you export, and Jebel Ali Free Zone is also located in a very, very enviable position, in the sense that it is very close to one of the biggest ports in the world, Jebel Ali Port, and it is also close to Al Maktoum International Airport, which in a few years' time is going to be the biggest airport in the world in terms of cargo movement as well as passenger traffic. And there is a huge logistics city, and it's all connecting to Dubai, Jebel Ali Free Zone. Now imagine this, I can't think of such a convenient location anywhere else in the world. You import shiploads of consignment, you repackage the whole thing, do some value addition, and then you export by air. You get it by ship and you can export to different countries through air traffic. Now, so these are the advantages. If you ask me, a company wanting to do an activity which is advantageous for considering these facilities in Jebel Ali Free Zone, then I'll tell them to locate themselves here. Suppose a company comes to and asks me, we want to manufacture items. Then my question will be, where is your market? Suppose they have GCC countries as a major chunk of their exports. Then I'll say you better locate it in Dubai mainland. The reason is, when you export from Dubai mainland, from your plant in Dubai mainland, as against free zone, the import duty in other GCC countries is nil. But if you do the same manufacture in a free zone and export to GCC countries, you'll be levied 5% import duty. Now, recently, Dubai has opened up a lot of activities for 100% foreign ownership. So this places the company in an advantageous position when it starts manufacturing. Now, if you ask me, I'll ask the company certain other questions. For example, they want to take advantage of the free zone, but more often than not, the companies get so many visitors, often major suppliers, major customers. They normally stay in the heart of Dubai, in the downtown area, and they just spend 1 day, 2 days. You want to entertain them in the heart of Dubai. Jebel Ali Free Zone is slightly far away. You want to have a posh office in overlooking Burj Khalifa. Then what companies do is they have a free zone entity, and then they also have a subsidiary in Dubai mainland, where they get a lot of visas depending on the office space, and they locate the sales and marketing and other people in Dubai office. The board of directors sits there. This is a separate entity, and then they do the operations in the free zone. Coming to other free zones, for example, if there is an IT company, I would place them in Dubai Internet City or Dubai Silicon Oasis, depending on exactly what is the kind of service and the product. There are free zones, for example, Dubai Academic City, It's housing huge university campuses. Universities from various countries have come there and set up their own campuses. And you get land, huge land for 30 years lease, 25 years lease at a very, very low rate. And you can build your own campus, or you can hire certain campuses which are ready. And there is another free zone called Dubai Metals and Commodities Center, DMCC. This is specializing in commodities. They give a lot of facilities for companies who are dealing in commodities. Okay, if you are having light goods, if you're dealing in light goods, and you are not going to access the port, seaport, and all you need is an airport by your side, then I will choose Dubai Airport Free Zone instead of Jebel Ali Free Zone, because Dubai Airport Free Zone is very close to touching Dubai Airport, cargo side of Dubai Airport. So you can import and export using that, and the offices are available cheap. Now, depending on the capital requirement, some free zones require 1 million AED as capital. Some free zones are as low as 50,000. So again, I'll check with the company, what is their, how do they look at it actually? So all these factors are to be taken into account. It is as per horses for the courses, Ramkumar.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you. I see Group Captain looking at the clock, and I got the hint. Anyway, I'll ask you a couple of more questions at least, which should be interesting. So to sum up what you said, you're saying that basically there are sector-based free trade zones, which may be like the ecosystem and the whole, all similar industries are there. So you have the knowledge and other, connectivity and stuff like that for this. And there are some benefits of doing from the mainland, like export to GCC, etc. One quick question I want to ask you, and a quick answer from you, given the time, is what are the emerging sectors? Where do you think people are coming in? Where money is pouring into certain sectors, right? Especially from India. Where do you think now, because a lot of people here must be keen to know which areas we should be looking at. Where is the action now in Dubai? Which are the sectors?
Okay, now with the impending expo, we are expecting about 20 million visitors in the next 6 months. And already, this real estate construction, they are all thriving. And apart from the tourism sector and hospitality, I've already talked about it. Apart from that, there are some interesting, services which Dubai is keen on attracting innovating minds from India, as it is repositioning itself as a knowledge-based economy in the near future. I'll quickly run through these areas. Artificial intelligence. Dubai has identified sectors where AI can be put to application completely. They've even appointed a state minister for AI. So this is one promising area for Indians to come in. Virtual reality and augmented reality is another area. Internet of Things is a big thing in India, Internet of Things. And IoT market in the Middle East is projected to reach $12.6 billion this year, according to International Data Corporation. Major chunk of this growth is expected to happen in Dubai. Talk about drones and drones technology. Ongoing pandemic and restrictions on public movement has created this opportunity. Dubai launched Dubai Sky Drone Project and created plans for commercial drone setting, helipads, air traffic control. Market is expected to reach $1.5 billion by 2022. Flying taxis, another project Dubai is very keen on. They want to, the strategy is to transform a quarter of total mobility journey in Dubai into autonomous transport. Fintech, Athar has already talked about. Cloud computing, 3D printing. 3D printing technology is, Dubai wants to be number one in the world by 2030. During pandemic, Dubai managed it beautifully well by manufacturing masks, at a huge volume at a short span of time using 3D printing technology. And then you have agri-tech, aquaculture. India is the fishery, in terms of fishery sector, India is world's second largest fish producer, world number 2 in aquaculture production. Dubai is banking on Indian minds and Indian expertise in these areas.
Thank you. And before I hand over to Group Captain to channelize the questions of the viewers, one thing I want to ask. Anybody who sat through this would think, everything is rosy, fantastic, it's a paradise where we should land up as quickly as possible. Are there any challenges at all, according to you, or is everything is so hunky-dory?
So there are some
Come from
challenges.
India, I'm saying.
No, the people who are coming from India, there are some challenges. Let us be frank, actually. I'll quickly go through that. There is, you don't have a ready availability of huge bank of skilled and unskilled laborers here. You should be ready to import from other countries. And also, as a banking practice here is, until a company is 3 years old with at least 3 years audited financials, banks don't give them any facilities. They don't lend. That means even a startup company should be ready to bring in their own capital until it's eligible to access banking finance. And in terms of the new entities, the startups, you said, even though there are a number of private equity firms in Dubai, it is still hard to come by. The reason is the exit route is not very easy, as it is the case in a mature market like India, because it's not going to be the companies after 5 years you list it and then you exit. The exit routes are a little difficult here. Because of that, private equity is hard to come by. Bankruptcy laws are up and running, but there is a long way to go in terms of fine-tuning the bankruptcy law. And as you all aware, summer months are very hot. 4 months are extremely hot. So if you are in the hospitality industry or tourism industry, you should be ready to have lean months during summer period. These are all some of the challenges which we can mitigate.
Okay. Thank you, Raman. I will just lead this to Group Captain. Before that, I want a question asked by our past president, Mr. Ranganath. Is Covaxin an approved COVID vaccine? I hear it is not, and many who are to visit the Expo 2020 are wondering how they can, as they may not be allowed. He wants to know whether people who took Covaxin can get into Dubai, because many people are wanting to go to Expo, as explained by you. After this, I will request Group Captain to channelize the question.
Actually, as we understand, Dubai is not particular about which vaccine a person is already got. So I think Covaxin or any vaccine should be all right, as long as they are very particular that you get negative report before entering Dubai, and you should show the record of vaccination. They are not specifying which vaccine.
Okay, Vijay.
Thank you, Mr. Raman. Thank you, Mr. Ramkumar. We got another 10 minutes. I'll try and squeeze in as many questions as possible. I will require you to, it can be a rapid fire. You can put your short answers, because we got a number of questions. I also want happy to share with you over 1,150 people are watching the program live on various social media portals, and it's a good number. So here is the first question to you, Mr. Raman. He says, Raman, you said that there are no corporate taxes, income tax in Dubai, and also the VAT is very low, with a lot of exemptions. What is the main source of revenue for the government when there's so much of infrastructure created and so much of fund is required for the maintenance of various aspects which is created by the government of Dubai?
That's a good question. Dubai government relies on, what they are doing is they are creating infrastructure, and they are creating the right environment for more and more people to come and settle down here and do business. See, when they are doing business, there are a lot of the import duty. Even though import duty is small, 5%, you get over a period of time, by volume, you get more and more import duties. And also the government companies which are into themselves having real estate companies, and they are developing all these townships and other areas, industrial parks. These are all owned by government, actually. And mind you, all the lands which I talked about, the big free zones, they are offering land on leases and all. These are all owned by government authorities. So more people come, more free zones, more activity, they automatically get more revenue.
Oh, yes, yeah, good. I know they must be getting revenue, otherwise they won't be surveying so beautifully.
Emirates Airlines, for example, just to add, Emirates Airlines is owned by government. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Here's a question to Mr. Mohammad Athar. Since you are from the fintech, there are two questions. One from Raman from Coimbatore, other one is from Pondicherry, Mr. Munshi. What do you want to know is, Mr. Athar, since you are a fintech space, how does Dubai view cryptocurrencies? You also want to know, you mentioned about 50 banks are present in the Dubai operating, and some of national banks. how they are regulated. You mentioned that they have got a regulatory thing. He wants to know particularly how the NPA managed by these banks, because they are so liberal in granting loans to some of the startups, and you mentioned more than 3,000 startups, and how they manage NPA, and what is the percentage of NPA in terms of overall transactions?
So first I will address the first question, which is regarding the cryptocurrency. See, cryptocurrency is accepted by, especially the Bitcoin, by some of the real estate companies like the Mac and maybe one or two else. But cryptocurrency is not a very widely accepted currency here within the banks or in terms of buying and selling of any of the commodities. There are a lot of cryptocurrency companies which have moved from China due to crackdown and even from Cyprus. So we have seen a good amount of people, especially in the cryptocurrency mining sector, as well as setting up the platforms here in Dubai. Especially the DMCC holds some of the companies which are holding the cryptocurrency as a custodian. So there have been various and multiple companies, and Dubai has helped them to flourish in UAE. But I would say there is much more regulation to be set on this particular sector and asset class. But yes, we have seen good amount of investors and as well as platform owners moving from especially countries like Cyprus and China. Yes. The second part of the question,
yes,
which was related to
NPA in the banks.
NPAs of the bank. See, one thing we have to understand, UAE has a moving population. People come here, set up the companies, do business, give lending and also take lending. And we have seen in the past, during 2008 and 9 crash, the NPAs increasing significantly for these banks, which created a huge amount of loss during those times. As well as the NPAs increased almost 2 to 3 years back due to multiple businesses closing down, which was again a challenging environment for the entire region. So yes, the banks are not very flexible and they are not very gung-ho about lending to new startups. The company has to be at least 3 years old and the transactions and the turnover has to be 3 years old. Then only a bank is looking at the new companies to look for lending. Simultaneously, the introduction of VAT in 2018 January has helped and given very fair valuations and documentations to the bank in order to offer any kind of loan. Earlier, there was no VAT, there was no actual balance sheet, there was no actual audited requirements by the banks. And due to competition, most of the banks were offering great amount of loan to multiple companies and new companies, which has reasonably stopped in the last 2 to 3 years. So as I said, now they are very bullish to offer loans. No, but they are very selective. And there are very, very strong guidelines by the central bank in order to control the NPAs for all the banks here in the country. But in the range, the NPAs are in the range, it is generally below 5% for most of the banks here. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Athar. Now we have a question from Mr. Raman. This question is, Mr. Raman, this is from Mr. Robert from Mumbai on YouTube. What he wants to know is, with the world moving towards alternate form of energy and e-vehicles, how do you think the economy of the Gulf countries would be affected in the next few years? And what is the proactive measures initiated by the Gulf countries? And you also want to know, sir, what is the secret? The current rate fixed by the dollar versus dirham is fixed forever. And knowing the American outlook towards collaboration in business, how did you manage this? And what is the secret behind the success of Dubai in fixing the permanent rate with dollar without any fluctuation?
So let me take the second question first. See, very fact that this dollar dirham parity has been there for a long time. You should know that this the rate doesn't indicate the real strength of UAE dirhams. UAE dirhams is much stronger than what the rate indicates. That's why there is an adequate cushion, which is the reason why it has stood the test of time over 4 decades. So that is why I use the word forever. What is the first part of your question?
Is it with the e-vehicle coming in a big way and alternate energy and sustainable development, how are you going to manage the future finances? Because oil consumption will go terribly down.
Yeah, very good question. Again, I would say that Dubai is leading the way. they are showing the way to the GCC countries. Dubai has never relied on oil reserves, and it has shown the way by expanding the non-oil sectors by privatizing and modernizing the infrastructure, by having very modern way of managing your city. Corporate, the governance of the city is one of the best, and they have resorted to IT and virtual technologies, and they have shown the way. So Abu Dhabi is following suit. Saudi Arabia is privatizing their real estate, and soon Qatar will also follow. I personally feel that Dubai model will be followed by other GCC countries.
Here is a question again from Mr. Ram Gopal from Chennai. The question addressed to Mr. Samir Kanaan. He says, how is the legal delivery system in Dubai and functioning of arbitration, which you fairly, you mentioned briefly the process which has to be done in 60 days is the award process. And who can be recognized as the best arbitrator, and how is the arbitrator appointed for such a compliance within 60 days? Actually, is it successful, the new order which has been implemented recently?
In fact, the arbitration system in Dubai is either ad hoc system where you have to refer your request to the court to appoint an arbitrator if both parties does not agree on an arbitrator. There is also the institutional arbitration, which is basically now the DIFC, LCIA, and from the other side, there is the DIAC, Dubai International Arbitration Center. So both of them, they have their own set of rules that govern the arbitration. The selection of the arbitrator is of two folds. Either both parties will agree to appoint the arbitrator. Usually all the arbitration clauses request a discussion for settlement before you resort to arbitration. So, but when we reach the stage of arbitration, if both parties does not agree on the arbitrators, if it is an ad hoc, as I said, it will be appointed by the court. If it is institutional, then the board of the DIAC or the board of DIFC LCIA will choose the arbitrator.
Go ahead.
In the same sense, it is very interesting again to note that the arbitration procedure had also developed, and there is a good set of rules that governs arbitration in both DIFC and DIAC. Now, the good thing about it, and recently we are having 3 arbitration hours from different parts. One of them is from India, which are in the process of being enforced or accredited by the court. So once the court, the appeal court of Dubai verifies the arbitration award and finds that there is no any formal mistake in this, they will not touch on the substance matter, but they will look at the formality that the arbitration award had met all the requirements, whether locally or internationally. Then the arbitration award will be accredited, will be accepted, and then it will go directly for the enforcement.
Thank you. I think due to past time, I will take 2 last questions so that we have total allotted time is given for the question. The number of questions that come on how to get a visa, how to get work permit, what is the dealership, is all many individualistic questions, and we are taking broad, which is a policy matter, so that everybody gets a fair idea of how to do business in Dubai. I'll take 2 last questions because of that. Actually, it says, one is the first question again from Raghunath from Bangalore is, what if I want to start a new business in Dubai without having an office set up there? Can I achieve this, and how can I live in UAE, Dubai permanently by opening up a business, and what is the amount of investment I have to do this to achieve this identity in Dubai?
This is the
group
question addressed. Yeah. Sorry.
Who is it addressed to?
Any one of you.
One of you can
Any
answer.
one of you. Yes.
So, Mr. Kanaan, would you like to take, or you want me to?
Yeah. I remind what is exactly the question?
The question is,
offshore.
what if I want to start a
Yes,
new
yes,
business in Dubai without having to set up an office in Dubai?
Okay.
Second thing is, can I achieve this? Can I also live in the UAE, Dubai permanently by opening up a business? And what is the amount of investment I have to bring in to get that permit to live in Dubai?
First, the first type of business that does not need a presence, or it's the offshore. The offshore companies. The offshore are issued by the different free zone jurisdictions, mainly by JAFZA. JAFZA will license an offshore company. The owner does not need to be resident in Dubai. He can be resident in any place in the world. But the difference here is that an offshore does not give you the privilege of being a resident in Dubai. They don't give you the residency. But a free zone would give you the residency. So there is a similarity between the free zone entity and the offshore. So the offshore, you can establish it without the need of being in Dubai, but the free zone will also give you either a desk or an office. Based on this, based on the space of the office, they will give you the number of visas, residency visas for the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Kanaan. And the last question for this evening is, any one of the panelists could attempt to respond to this question. You talked about healthcare city. Is there a medical tourism in Dubai? Is it popular? How is the medical support in thing, and what is it spend of GDP towards the medical expenditure in Dubai, and is how well the people are taken care, especially during the pandemic time?
Okay.
In fact, the health authority in Dubai had started the healthcare city since the last 15 years. The healthcare city now is one of the most advanced worldwide. So there is all types of hospitals there, international hospitals with various specialization. So this would advance the tourism, the health tourism, and will give it will satisfy all the people coming for this type of tourism, the health requirements and the required medical support.
Thank you, Mr. Samir. I will request Mr. Ramkumar for your closing comments before we deliver the formal vote of thanks. Over to you, Mr. Ramkumar.
Yeah, I think the speakers covered a wide range of things. It was a big challenge, I suppose, given the time, because before the speech, when we had an informal discussion, we looked at the amount of content they had, and we had to compress it to make it more meaningful. I am sure there are more questions, but I must thank the speakers for giving an overview. And many of us think we know about Dubai. For example, for the first time I knew today, the currency, AED to US dollar is fixed forever at 3.675. That seems like a very big benefit. There are many such information, about the international financial center, and also about the ownership now of 100%, and what just now Mr. Kanaan explained about the Jebel Ali Treat Zone giving you the resident status and all that. There are many, many very useful things out of this program. There are more questions, which I'm sure we can direct it. If any of the members want some more things to be clarified, we can forward the questions, and we can get the answers and publish it in our magazine or on our site. Overall, I must thank all the members and the various participants. 1,150 is a huge number. We thank you for this continued support. Of course, Group Captain has the magic of getting so many people, the relevant people, because I'm sure we were not able to answer many of the relevant questions. We're sorry about it because we had to cut it at this point of time, but I'm sure we can answer these questions on the website or whatever it is. We can get the speakers to answer these questions. My hearty thanks to all the speakers, Raman, Mr. Kanaan, and Mr. Athar, for the amount of preparation they did and the kind of knowledge they have imparted to the MMA members. I wish you all the best and thank you all once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramkumar.
Thank you, Mr. Ramkumar.
Thank you, Mr. Ramkumar, and especially thanks to you personally because for introducing Mr. Raman and also facilitating this concept of having to have a discussion with Dubai. And thank you, Mr. Raman, for conceptualizing and giving us the idea that we must do a thing. And when you suggested, you straight away accepted and brought two outstanding co-panelists with you, Mr. Samir Kanaan and Mr. Mohammad Athar, who are thorough professionals who could share their insights on number of issues which you are not otherwise know. As Mr. Ramkumar mentioned, especially dollar. I know how much Indian businesses work on hedging and protect their businesses because of dollar fluctuation. I think that's a great advantage doing business in Dubai. And thanks to distinguished speakers and all the viewers watching the program live, coming big number. As Mr. Ramkumar mentioned, if you have any query, please do write to us. The panelists will be more than delighted to connect with you and take it forward. In the meanwhile, as a token of our appreciation and the distance pandemic separated, and I request on behalf of MMA, please do accept. We would like to present 400 face masks and 100 mini sanitizers. What we do, the people around MMA, so that till 100% vaccination, this is one of the things which can protect us in the pandemic. Because we also do much social service work, go around our place, give our premises for vaccination, give them ration in case wherever the people are not there. And we continue to do this engagement with the people, our community around MMA. We do the night tuitions, we adopt the children for the better education, give them all the facilities. Because this is one of the areas where we thought we could do that. And we are able to do all this because of the support which you are given to us by our members and a big way in terms of CSR supporting. Thanks to each one of you. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's a pleasure. Once again, thanks to Ramkumar, Mr. Raman, Mr. Athar, and also Mr. Kanaan. And we look forward to receiving you at MMA when you visit Chennai next time. And look forward to having a good seminar, a good conclave in Chennai so that many people can interact with you personally, exchange ideas, exchange views. And when you get time, you must visit Chennai. It will be a privilege to host you in Chennai. Thanks to each one of you again. Good night till we meet again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Ramkumar.